yourself that this is the year?
Once the rescue started, even though it took them 8 hours to get me out, my hopes started soaring. I knew I was getting out of there.
An amazing story. I'm Wolf Blitzer in Washington. CNN's coverage continues with Lou Dobbs Moneyline. That begins right now.
Tonight on Lou Dobbs Moneyline, accounting firm Anderson is at the center of the Enron scandal. Tonight, Anderson CEO Joseph Baradino is our exclusive guest. The SEC today called for accounting reform. Former SEC Chairman Richard Breeden calls this Enron crisis a final wake-up call for the accounting and securities industries. Breeden will be here. As will General Electric CEO Jeffrey Immelt on the day his firm reports another record year of earnings. And investors sent stock prices higher, the Dow Jones Industrial Average gaining more than 100 points. This is Lou Dobbs Moneyline for Thursday, January 17th. Here now, Lou Dobbs.
Good evening, everyone. Literally within the last minute, CNN has learned that Enron has fired Anderson as its audit and accounting firm. That word coming from Enron's legal representative, Bob Bennett. We have also learned tonight that Enron will meet with its employees next week. This will be the first such meeting since the company declared bankruptcy on December 2nd. All Enron employees are invited to that meeting. Enron's chief operating and financial officers will also be in attendance. Chairman Ken Lay will not. There are other developments tonight as well. Anderson, Enron's auditor, confirmed that it did know of Enron's problems as early as February of last year. And the Securities and Exchange Commission wants a new regulatory watchdog to monitor the accounting industry. Tim O'Brien has that report from Washington.
In a rare news conference, SEC Chairman Harvey Pitt proposed a watchdog agency that resembles the state bar associations that regulate the conduct of lawyers with the power to disbar those who misbehave.
The body should be empowered to perform investigations, bring disciplinary proceedings, publicize results, restrict individuals and firms who have failed to meet ethical or competence standards from auditing public companies.
Pitt said disciplinary proceedings would be expeditious and subject to SEC oversight. Meanwhile, investigators of the House Energy and Commerce Committee continue to sift through thousands of documents provided by Enron and Arthur Anderson. An email from last February has now surfaced indicating Anderson decided to retain Enron as a client only after a significant discussion of what it called Enron's earnings and the fact that it was intelligent gambling. Committee staffers are in Houston Thursday and Friday, interviewing former and present Enron officials. It's not clear if Chairman Kenneth Lay would be among them. The political side of the conflict is also heating up, with Henry Waxman, the ranking Democrat on the House Government Reform Committee, issuing a report claiming that at least 17 policies in the president's energy plan were advocated by Enron or benefit Enron. Nonsense, says the White House.
The allegation by Congressman Waxman that anything was put in that plan for political purposes is of itself a partisan waste of taxpayer money.
Fleischer said the White House will not explain to Congress or the media details of the meetings it has had with Enron officials. There have been at least 6, absent a showing of some wrongdoing. And, said Fleischer, there's been no such showing. To many, perhaps most, this scandal is and may always be more about business than about politics. Unless, of course, you live in Washington, where business and just about everything else is politics. Lou?
Tim, indeed. Thank you very much, Tim O'Brien. A new revelation in the Enron scandal. Not only did the company hide millions of dollars in debt in off-balance sheet transactions, it also managed to avoid paying taxes in 4 of the past 5 years. Alan Chernoff reports.
The analysis of Enron financials from Citizens for Tax Justice looked at the 5 years between 1996 and 2000, a period when Enron's pre-tax income was more than $1.7 billion. Only in 1997, the study says, did the company pay income tax. Enron's total refund during the 5 years, $381 million.
On average, big companies in America pay about 1/5 of their profits in federal income taxes. When you find one like that, you say, wait a minute, what's going on here? How come this company's paying less than zero? And you look into it and you say, gee, they really shouldn't be allowed to do that.
The large print in Enron's annual report indicates the company did pay taxes. It's after factoring in financials contained in footnotes that the analysis reveals Enron's tax refunds. Many companies use tax havens, but Enron was extremely aggressive, creating 881 subsidiaries in havens like the Cayman Islands to reduce its tax bill. Former IRS Commissioner Donald Alexander.
Sure, it's fishy. Why do they have so many of them? I don't understand that. I can understand a corporation with major international activities, and they had those, having a number of subsidiaries in tax-favored countries as well as high-tax countries. But I can't understand why you'd have almost 700 in the Caymans unless you were up to something.
Enron also cut its tax bill dramatically through deductions for stock options that were lavishly granted to executives like CEO Ken Lay and former President Jeff Skilling, a perfectly legal deduction that most public companies employ. Moneyline called Enron repeatedly for comment. The company did not return the calls. No comment from Anderson on the tax questions, but minutes ago, the accounting firm released a statement saying it was not until former Enron employee Sharon Watkins notified the firm, meaning Anderson, that we became aware that individuals within Enron believe that there may have been accounting improprieties. Referring to a February Anderson memo that spoke of the accounting firm's partners discussing Enron's aggressive finances, Anderson says, the fact that many issues were discussed is consistent with our practice of rigorously examining all known and potential issues that need to be considered in deciding whether to continue to audit a particular client. Lou?
Almost 900 subsidiaries in offshore tax havens.
That appears to be unprecedented.
Well, if it's not, we sure need to find out where the rest are. All right. Thank you, Alan Chernoff. Enron is not alone when it comes to avoiding taxes, of course. More than half of the Fortune 250 companies in the country found ways to reduce their income tax in the 3 years from 1996 to 1998. According to the Institute on Taxation and Economic Policy, 133 of them, the country's largest corporations, paid just 8.5% tax during that period. Compare that to the majority of Americans who paid double that amount, more than 16%. Scandals of the magnitude of the Enron collapse are not unheard of course, but what is interesting is that in the end, it is very rare that anyone goes to jail. Peter Biles has that story.
The accounting scandal at Enron is the latest in a litany that includes Waste Management, Sendon, and Sunbeam. Merrill Davidoff sued Sunbeam and its auditor, Arthur Anderson.
We have a wave of aggressive accounting and a wave of stepping over the line in corporate America, and I do think it has to be brought to a stop. It's reaching epidemic proportions.
The accounting industry's greatest misses? CUC inflated earnings by $500 million before the Sendon merger. 2 CUC executives face criminal charges. Sendon paid $2.8 billion to settle shareholder lawsuits. Its auditor, Ernst & Young, paid $335 million to settle similar suits. At HBO and Company, the healthcare concern, revenues were overstated by $270 million. 2 former executives face criminal charges. The auditor at the time, Arthur Anderson. Shareholder lawsuits are still pending. But those cases are the exception. Criminal charges are rare.
The government resources are very limited in situations, and they're interested in settling the case, getting something out of the process, perhaps a large fine.
At Sunbeam, where earnings were overstated by $101 million in the Al Dunlap era, no criminal charges were ever filed. Sunbeam fell into bankruptcy. Its auditor, again Arthur Anderson, settled shareholder lawsuits for $110 million. Dunlap settled a separate suit for $15 million. At Waste Management, earnings were overstated by $1.4 billion in the mid-90s. Again, no criminal charges. Again, Anderson was the auditor. It joined in a $220 million settlement with shareholders and paid $7 million more to settle civil charges brought by the SEC.
In that Waste Management case, the SEC singled out Arthur Anderson for strong criticism, saying that it had, quote, failed to stand up to company management and, quote, betrayed its ultimate allegiance to shareholders. Lou?
Pete, thank you very much. Peter Biles. Well, the Enron disaster should serve as a final wake-up call to the securities industry and the accounting industry, in the view of Richard Breeden, who is the former head of the Securities and Exchange Commission, and he joins us now. Mr. Breeden, good to have you here.
Nice to be here, Lou.
We heard Harvey Pitt, the SEC chairman, today make a recommendation for reform of the accounting industry. What do you think of his proposals?
Well, I haven't had a chance to review them in any depth, and I think it's good that Harvey is joining the discussion. The Commission has an important role to play in any discussion of a system that obviously has some very deep-seated problems. At least as I understand it, if we're trying to move discipline away from the SEC, divest it into some form of an analog to a state bar association, I think that may be moving the wrong direction.
That's precisely what he is indeed recommending. And really taking a greater role for the SEC itself in policing this, in relying instead on beefing up, if you will, industry boards.
Well, I think we've had 50 years of trying to have self-regulation of the accounting industry. Meanwhile, we have had steady consolidation of the firms into larger and larger entities. The Big Five probably do 60 or 70 billion dollars in revenues now, and the SEC might have 100 accountants to try and oversee that. And I think we've long starved the SEC of the resources to do the kind of enforcement job it needs to do.
Well, the enforcement job that it needed to do in the case of Enron, obviously, to whatever degree one wants to argue it, it was not done. The fact is that we have Ken Lay, the head of a bankrupt firm, now in the midst of, at our count, 8 congressional investigations, 3 federal investigations. He's still at the head of that firm. Do you think it's appropriate that he be there?
No, I don't. We have a provision in the bankruptcy code that calls for the appointment of an independent trustee or an examiner or responsible person. There's a couple different statutory categories. But I would think that the employees whose 401ks are worthless and the other investors whose shares are worth less than $1 deserve someone other than Ken Lay looking at how to make the best out of what the ashes of Enron.
In looking at the issues of corporate governance here and examining the board, which has changed over the course the past year, this board was anything but an independent board. Should they, in point of fact, still be in the position that they're in?
Well, if you went down the path of an independent trustee, which I think is something that is justified in this case, it's an unusual procedure, but then I think there should be changes in the board as well. We've redefined the term supine and spineless, perhaps, in looking at the performance of this board, at least as much as we can tell from the outside. And I think the public is entitled, investors are entitled, and the employees are entitled at this stage to know that we're going to clean house and be sure that we get to the bottom of the facts and all the records are protected and we find out the full story.
The full story is going to take some work to figure out here. But the fact is that Enron is the biggest corporate bankruptcy in history. What is, in your best judgment, the likelihood that investors, employees, and with their money in their 401ks will ever get any money as a result of the proceedings?
I think it's too hard. It's too early to say that, and I just don't know enough. I know for the last 6 years I've been trustee of a company that multi-billion-dollar leasing fraud was a Ponzi scheme, and we recovered ultimately about 70% of the total losses for creditors. So it can be done. There presumably are businesses there that can be restructured and value that can be created. The question of the magnitude of that value and how much creditors can get back is a really critical issue that while we should be doing what we're doing on looking at the accounting system, somebody has to remember the existing shareholders and try and get the best we can.
At the bottom line, this is the failure of a business.
It is the failure of a business, and with all the attention on Andersen, we shouldn't forget that ultimately this is a large company, there are a lot of assets there, and there's a lot of value that hopefully can still be restored.
Richard Breeden, thank you very much for being with us.
Good to see you, Lou.
Still ahead, Enron's accounting firm Andersen is at the center of the Enron collapse. Andersen's Chief Executive Officer, Joseph Berardino, will join us here in just a few minutes in an exclusive interview. Enron's employees lost much of their retirement money. With the company's collapse tonight, we'll have a special report for you on the dangers of owning your own company's stock in your 401k. And General Electric has reported another record year of earnings. CEO Jeffrey Immelt will be here to tell us what he sees in GE's new year. And stock prices in the day higher, better than expected earnings news from several of corporate America's biggest names. We'll have a full report for you on all the day's activity on Wall Street next.
CNN thanks you for making us America's most watched cable news network. This year and every year, you can depend on CNN.
What do all these leading area businesses have in common? They've all purchased trucks from Landmark Ford. Whether you maintain a fleet of one or hundreds of vehicles, you'll find that Landmark can provide trucks for every need. Yes, our prices are extremely competitive, but it's the prompt professional attention you'll get from our factory-trained fleet managers and award-winning service department that really makes the difference. Commercial trucks. The place to get them is at Landmark Ford in Tigard. We're just off I-5 at the Haines Street exit.
Now is your chance to save up to 50% on a new mattress right here at Mattress World. You want a top Sealy mattress at huge savings? Now is the time. Mattress World has hundreds of floor models and discontinued stock ready for immediate delivery. We're serious. Hurry in now. We've got the selection and the best prices. Don't miss this opportunity to save. When they're gone, they're gone. It's not too late to sleep like a baby. Mattress World off I-205, exit 12, 8 blocks north of Clackamas Fred Meyer, where low overhead means low prices.
This is CNN.
We've invited you here to announce a major breakthrough, the result of ongoing R&D at our Virginia facility. So, with great pride, we unveil something that not only revolutionizes our industry, it revolutionizes everything.
When it happens in business, it will happen in Virginia.
Lou Dobbs Moneyline is brought to you by the Commonwealth of Virginia. When it happens in business, it will happen in Virginia. Virginia is for business.
What we're about to report to you may upset you. It may upset your employer as well. Financial planners, of course, have long discouraged the practice of putting your retirement dollars into your company's stock. Not everyone pays attention to that warning. The theory is, should the company falter, you could lose your job, your savings, and your retirement. Many employees, however, don't heed that warning against what is, after all, double or sometimes triple jeopardy. Brooks Jackson has the story.
Meet Frank Cisternino of Shreveport, Louisiana. If you thought Enron employees had a sad story about their retirement plan, listen to what happened at Lucent Technologies.
The highest my 401k value was approximately $1.3 million, $1.4 million, and right now we're around $100,000.
Cisternino had 100% of his retirement money in Lucent stock, and look what happened. Like Enron stock, Lucent soared in the late 90s, then suddenly crashed and kept on sliding. Could this happen elsewhere? You bet. Lots of big companies allow, even encourage their employees to concentrate retirement money in their own stock. Tax laws encourage it, but investment advisors say the practice is worse than ill-advised.
It's incredibly dumb. It's without question one of the worst things that a U.S. worker or employee can do.
Even Ronald's retirement could be at risk. 74% of McDonald employees' retirement plan assets are invested in McDonald's stock, according to the authoritative newsletter, DC Plan Investing. Where is Mickey's retirement money? The Walt Disney Company has 45% of retirement plan assets in Disney stock. And the highest of all, the makers of Crest toothpaste, Procter & Gamble, 95% of employees' retirement funds in P&G stock. Critics say it's bad enough to be too heavily into any one stock, but doubly risky if it's your own company.
If the company goes under, you are at risk of not only losing your job, but losing your retirement savings at the same time.
Just what happened at Enron. For some, not diversifying has worked out okay so far. Procter & Gamble stock has gone up 49% in the past 5 years, exactly the same as the Standard & Poor's 500 stock index. And look at Pfizer. Its retirement fund is 86% invested in Pfizer stock, and that stock has nearly tripled since 5 years ago. But others have done poorly, even disastrously. Owens Corning has lost 95% of its value since 5 years ago. And at last report, that retirement plan was still 44% invested in its own sickly stock. McDonald's is up, but only 19% in 5 years, severely underperforming the market. And Disney stock is actually down 3% from 5 years ago. So the bitter lesson that Enron employees learned the hard way still needs learning at literally dozens of the biggest American companies. Lou?
Brooks, thank you very much. Brooks Jackson from Washington. Well, let's turn to some happier news. Stocks today rebounded on Wall Street following yesterday's sharp sell-off. Upbeat earnings reports lifted the market today. As stock prices rose, treasuries fell after a decline in weekly jobless claims, diminishing hopes of another interest rate cut by the Fed, at least among some. The Dow today gained 137 points. The Nasdaq surged 41 points. The S&P 500 up nearly 11. Let's go down to our correspondents following the markets. Christine Romans at the big board, Greg Clarkin at the Nasdaq market site. Christine.
And Lou, after the bell, IBM out with its report, coming out and beating the street's expectations on its bottom line by 1 penny, but it's the sales number that looks like it's a bit shy. IBM shares down $5 after hours. During the session, though, it was up more than $2.50 on expectations it would beat earnings. It did, but again, watch that sales number, what it means for tomorrow. Compaq, meanwhile, setting the positive tone early after it nudged up forecasts for the first quarter, called for recovery in tech spending in the second half of 02. Sears, Lou, to the highest price in 2.5 years on its earnings report, but it wasn't all rosy news for some of these companies. Ford coming out with a loss for the year, Lou, of almost $5.5 billion. That's the 12th largest loss in the last 15 years. Ford already has a position on that top 20 list as well. So Ford shares moving down to a 4-year low. Lou?
Christine, thank you. Let's go over to Greg Clarkin at the Nasdaq market site. Greg.
And Lou, one of the things people are going to be trading off tomorrow is the Microsoft news after the close of trading today. The company coming out with earnings, another earnings report from Microsoft with a very big special charge. If you factor in an 8 cents a share earnings legal expense charge, the company came out with 41 cents a share in earnings. You exclude that, they came out with 49 cents a share. 43 was expected. After hours trading, the stock selling off a bit after jumping almost $2 on a day. Apple Computer rose after posting inline earnings, and also saying that this quarter is shaping up better than a lot of folks anticipated. Yahoo topped earnings expectations. The stock rose nicely. And Intel, after losing about 2.8% yesterday, rebounded today. It was up about 2.4%, so it gains back almost all of it. Lou, back to you.
Greg, thank you very much. Greg Clarkin. Coming up next, the government uncovers videotapes of suspected terrorists in Afghanistan, and they are now looking for your help. We will have that story for you. Also, a solid quarter, a positive outlook for 2002. We'll be talking with General Electric's Chief Executive Officer, Jeffrey Immelt, next about how he expects the company to succeed. And an exclusive interview with the CEO and Chairman of Arthur Andersen, Joseph Berardino. We'll get to the bottom line on Andersen's role in the recent collapse of Enron. Next.
New America Online version 7.0 is here.
There's never been a better time to join. What are you waiting for?
Call 1-877-265-0100 now for AOL's best offer ever.
7.0 is filled with a whole bunch of new stuff.
No one has what AOL has.
Call now and do things with new AOL 7.0 you could never do before.
There's even more local information.
News, weather, sports.
Radio without any static right on my computer.
7.0 makes shopping easier. AOL is super fast.
Call now and see how new AOL version 7.0 can keep you in touch with friends and family.
I can be talking to a few people at the same time.
All of a sudden, bing, you got your instant messages.
You've got mail.
It's fun getting email.
You've got mail.
Hers should say you've got lots of mail.
Call now and see how easy it is to get started. Sign up over the phone and be online in minutes.
7.0 makes it even easier.
Call 1-877-265-0100 now to join AOL and get a risk-free special offer for new members. It's our best offer ever.
AOL is wonderful.
America Online, so easy to use, no wonder it's #1.
The American Stock Exchange. Opportunity made fresh daily.
The Securities and Exchange Commission today called for a new oversight group to monitor the practices of the accounting industry. The SEC chairman, Harvey Pitt, cited the Enron collapse and its auditor, Andersen. Mr. Pitt said Andersen failed to stand up to management to prevent the issuance of materially misstated financial statements. Instead, Andersen allowed the company to establish and then continue for many years a series of improper accounting practices. Joining us now is Joseph Baradino. He is the CEO of Andersen. First of all, thank you for being here under what, by any light, are extraordinary circumstances for you and your firm.
Well, thank you, Lou.
Let's turn immediately, if we may, to some of the revelations that are coming out. Your firm today confirming that there was a retention meeting in February in which a number of things were discussed, including off-balance sheet debt and the structures of those debts, the size of the fees, the potential conflicts of interest. Were you at that meeting?
Lou, no, I wasn't, but I will tell you that that is a meeting we have on virtually every client in our firm every year. We review among the team and the management, usually of the office, the challenges that client presents us, the expectations they have, the quality and competence of the people we assign to the account, and we make a positive retention decision every year as to whether we want to continue that relationship. So this meeting was, if you will, an every year occurrence, and we go over all the events, including these transactions that you allude to.
Obviously, you have fired the principal partner, David Duncan, who has been now testifying in Washington. And in this email to Mr. Duncan, it is written that a significant discussion was also held regarding Enron's MTM earnings and the fact that it was, quote-unquote, intelligent gambling. Intelligent gambling does not sound like the kind of expression one would expect to hear from the mouths of firms, and particularly a firm the size of Enron's auditors.
Lou, this is a very unusual company. Those are not words we typically use. Clearly what this company was doing was trying to expand its trading capability beyond its traditional base in energy. Risks that many companies do take, and which a lot of people knew about in the case of Enron. And we've all seen what happens when some of those investments don't work out.
Unfortunately. As a result of that meeting, which was documented, obviously, were you aware of the meeting, or at least the results of that meeting?
No, I wasn't, Lou.
One would ask, why not, with a firm that is one of your very largest, if not largest, audit clients?
Well, Lou, we've got a process that goes through our organization where, as I said earlier, we review the risks of each client and our ability to serve them the way they deserve to be served. And the way our procedures work is if there's any disagreement within the organization that can't be resolved, it will come to my desk and I will make a decision. In this case, all those involved understood the risks, understood the issues, and decided we would go forward.
The meeting in August, the Sharon Watkins meeting in which she talked with representatives of the firm, and the engagement partner was, in point of fact, notified of all of the complications, many of which were raised in that February meeting, as you know. That meeting followed on the heels in May of Andersen settling the Sunbeam lawsuit, a shareholder suit, $110 million with strictures from the SEC. In June, the largest penalty ever paid by one of the big five firms, and an injunction for fraud of $7 million in the waste management. Why was there not at Andersen an extraordinary sensitivity and conscientiousness about propriety here?
Well, Lou, if you look at the timeline, August wasn't too long ago, was it? And this so-called whistleblower note was shared with us, as I understand it, and we immediately went to the company, asked them if they knew about it. They said yes, they did. And our responsibilities are to make sure that there's an investigation by management and a response back to us. As I understand it, that investigation did take place. It's been reported widely. And frankly, it's been an incomplete conversation because shortly after that investigation, frankly, we all were overcome by events relating to that third quarter. And we never did close the loop on those conversations.
You didn't close the loop. Tonight we received word just as we went on the air that Enron had fired Anderson as its auditor and accounting firm. What is your reaction?
Well, Lou, technically, and I hate to be technical, but I think it is an important point, when a company goes in bankruptcy, all its relationships are severed. And then the company needs to decide what it wants to do going forward and what its needs may be. And obviously Enron has not rehired us, and will do whatever it needs to do to proceed in its bankruptcy.
And as we look at the waste management fine in June, as you point out, it is a broad time frame, but following May, June, and August, in the need for heightened sensitivity, there is also an anti-fraud injunction against Anderson as a result of that. Does this increase the vulnerability should there be findings against the firm by the SEC and other agencies, create a higher level of vulnerability for you in the Enron deal?
Lou, this Enron crisis is on a scale that we have never seen, and God help us, we never see again. And what it does is, I think it puts us all on heightened alert as to some of the fundamental issues that we need to address in our profession, and frankly, that I need to address in my firm. You may know that yesterday I issued a letter to the public where I indicated we are prepared to take some actions, and today you've seen some response by the accounting profession in consultation with the SEC. I think in a crisis, this gives us all an opportunity to revisit some of the fundamental ways of doing business, some of the fundamental ways of upholding our responsibilities to the public. And I will tell you, in a very unusual way, this gives us all an opportunity, with all the incredible scrutiny this is getting, for us to assess our entire financial reporting process. And I will tell you, I'm giving one signal after another that we will take a lead within our profession, and more importantly, I need to do some things in my firm, and you're going to see the real Anderson come forward, which is to be brutally honest about ways we can do our job better. And my partners and my 85,000 fellow employees are totally motivated to do that.
Mr. Baradino, we would like to go through what some of those things are and hear more about that, and also discuss something about tax law, if you could be so good as to stay with us as we take a momentary break.
Okay.
Joe Baradino, CEO of Anderson. We will continue our conversation in just a moment, and we will also be joined later by General Electric CEO Jeffrey Immelt. Stay with us.
Moneyline Focus is brought to you by Brobeck, the law firm serving America's leading companies.
Merging. Acquiring. Looking for funding. 500 M&A engagements. 1,000 venture capital deals. Tens of billions of dollars. Last 3 years.
Brobeck, the law firm, when your future is at stake.
Excuse me, this is my cab.
I'm sorry.
Can we share a cab?
Why not?
You're with Fidelity.
That's right.
Let me ask you something. I still have a 401k from a job that I had 3 jobs ago. Can I move that?
Most of the time, sure. It's called a rollover.
Really?
We can do all the paperwork, and you just sign and roll it into an IRA, and you can buy stocks or mutual funds, whatever you're comfortable with.
And I'd be in control of it?
Sure.
Get my life down to one sheet of paper.
That's right. Simplicity.
To invest, call, click, or visit Fidelity.
This is the old man of the desert. He can live 100 years in 140-degree heat. But if startled, he can die. So when we built our pipeline through the desert, Williams took special care to help every desert tortoise along the way, to speed new energy to the west without slowing down the old man of the desert.
Don't
Reynolds never knew there were tunnels?
He didn't want to know, but you're missing the point of the story. A young entrepreneur engrossed in a Hogan's Heroes marathon neglects to ship an important package.
Did he know about the radio and the coffee pot?
He knew nothing. Now focus. Like a swallow returning to Capistrano, he instinctively heads to FedEx. They give his small business package the big business treatment, and another hobgoblin of success.